How you doing, guys? Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. I've been making videos for, I don't know, like 15 years at this point on YouTube, which is insane because I only have 50,000 subscribers. I'm shadow banned. But one of the weird things that I've noticed over those years is the way that I will think of an idea for a topic or something that seems like a good idea to make a video on, and then find out that some other people, in the prepping or preparedness and or tactical whatever community in YouTube have started making videos on the same thing at the same time. And the point is not that anybody's copying off each other, just that things happen in the world and kind of get us all thinking about the same thing at once. And that's kind of happening right now with the focus on transitioning our preparedness or response gear, I guess you could call it that, from more of a full-on military tactical special forces setup to something that might be actually more applicable in all the real-world situations that we're seeing. And I do think it's really important to have a full-blown kit for those situations, because especially there's so many scenarios where people are coming to your house and you're just going to deal with that and not leave, not going to have it on for 2 weeks or whatever on some reconnaissance mission or whatever. So I think in that situation, it's fine to go as full-blown as you want, because you don't know what you're dealing with. You're not going to be leaving your property, almost certainly, maybe not even your house, depending on where you live. So, if you want to throw on full kit, plates, 6 mags, whatever, helmet, nods, whatever you have can afford, that's really fine, whether it's one person trying to, crackhead breaking in your window or 12-member cartel or Waco type situation. Because it's in that situation, it's a little better to have the extra gear than not, because you're not dealing with this, having to keep this on for a week or something. But there's also a ton of other scenarios where things have escalated in a general sense, but there's not an acute incident at your house, okay, right now it's go time, we're being attacked. But there's most scenarios, it seems like, that we can look to in the real world will have a heightened risk, maybe even an insanely heightened risk, but not actual contact incident occurring right then. And in a lot of those scenarios, they fall just below a WROL, or without rule of law scenario, to where you wouldn't necessarily want to, or maybe even be able to, walk around in full battle rattle. And even if you could, it's not necessarily the best idea. So here, and in many other states, open carry is legal, but that's not the case everywhere. Certainly not everywhere in the world, and definitely not even everywhere in the US. And even in the places where it's legal, like here, there's so many scenarios where if we're at a heightened risk scenario, but it's not shit the fan or not a major, grid down shit the fan type scenario, people are still having to go to work. If I'm going to the grocery store, am I going to go there with full plate carrier and a long gun and everything? Just where they even let me in? The cops still may get called and have an incident, even if it's technically legal. So there's tons of situations where you want to be a lot more low key. And I'm not just talking about gray man, because I think that's used often to describe during shit the fan just not looking like anything different. I'm talking about where the situation hasn't even yet escalated to that level, but it still requires some level of additional preparation or additional response. And I think most of us are probably less prepared for that, at least immediately. We might have all the stuff necessary, but it's not ready to go in the same way that it is. We may actually be more ready to launch into a full-on, shit the fan mode than we are into just heightened situation. Think of something like Katrina, where there's technically no rule of law. You may at any moment run into somebody, gangbangers or something, trying to roll up on you, try to take all your stuff armed, but you may at the same time also roll up on a police officer who is going to shoot you or try to confiscate your weapons, like what happened back then, even illegally. Or think of the scenario that Fairfall from Modern Survivalist talked about in the ongoing economic collapse in Argentina. Things had gotten so bad that people wouldn't even stop at stoplights or stop signs in certain parts of town because the risk of people running up and carjacking them was so high that you wouldn't even come to a complete stop. You would just roll through it. But you're going to work. You're going to church or the grocery store, visit family. You're not going everywhere with 30 pounds of tactical gear on, long gun, out in the open. So you still have to have options for those lesser scenarios where risk is insanely heightened, and yet you don't have the option to, or it's not a good idea to go full out. And Wrangler Star just made a video about this, and so I think it's something definitely we need to think about, and it's something that I have taken steps towards, because as I've over the past year or two made the decision to conceal carry like 100% of the time, if at all possible. If it's not in a situation where I'm not legally allowed to, or it would be, you know, dangerously irresponsible to do so, then I try to make sure I have that with me all the time, even if it's just like the LCP Max or something. But, you know, I think there's in between that's every day. And then we still have, you know, shit the fan, what I would consider, and then everything in between, we have to have more options for that. And one of the things I do, I've talked to you guys before about this, but like I carry this backpack with me when I go play poker tournaments. Obviously, if something was really heightened risk, I wouldn't be playing poker tournaments, but the point is I can take this everywhere without looking weird. I have the Safe Life Defense backpack panel in there. Link will be in the description to these. I know I've talked about them before. I think my code is still good for 10% off. Definitely use it. These will stop, very lightweight and flexible, so you can put it inside of most bags, briefcases, whatever. And it'll stop all handgun rounds, shotguns, all common handgun rounds anyway. And then also, if you want to get froggy, what I have in here, a little bit heavier, is a level 4 plate. So in conjunction with the soft armor, this will stop 30-06 steel core multiple strikes. It's a little heavier, about 6 pounds, but for a young guy like me, that's no big deal. And then what also the backpack allows you to do is not look crazy with a plate carrier on, or even having to cover it under your clothes. You can just put the backpack on like this. And it, you know, it won't necessarily position the plate carrier in the perfect location. It might be a little low, but the, where is it? My panel comes up to just under the right spot. But this is still much better for, you know, drawing less attention. You might look a little weird with the backpack on the front, but, you know, out here in Vegas, there's nothing you can do to be the weirdest person in the room, so it wouldn't even give me a second glance. In most places, people are just going to be like, eh. But if you're marching through somewhere, a grocery store or a mall or whatever, and you have to go like this, no one's really going to think that much of it. They'll just be like, why does this guy have a backpack on the front? And if you're running away from something, you can transition it to the back. Perfectly good option there. And also just think about having options for more concealability with your armor, if you want armor. So like the vest that I'm talking about, you don't have to have the tactical carry. This is another Safe Life carrier, so you can use the panels in these and in the one with all the MOLLE and every tactical carrier that you put on the outside of your clothes. This is the concealable carrier, and so it can take the panels, or if you just want to, in an emergency, straight up use it as a plate carrier, it has the pouch in there for 10x12 plate, front and back, and this will fit under your clothes very easily compared to the tactical versions of everything, or even just a normal plate carrier. This is a very thin material. It doesn't have, you know, bulky straps or anything like that on you, but it's still fairly comfortable to wear, and you can put it under a baggy t-shirt or a hoodie just fine, and conceal all day if you need to. Or if you just need to walk home from somewhere, you know, and you got that on, you could leave it in your car with plates and hide it in a way that if your car gets burglarized, it doesn't take up a whole lot of space, so you can put it in places that, you know, might not be too easy to get to. Because that's one of the things Wrangler Star mentioned that's very important, is that how are you supposed to take all this stuff with you in a situation where you're not wearing it 24/7? Are you going to leave this stuff in your car? You know, hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Are you going to carry it in with you to restaurants and grocery stores? Big duffel bag of gear, you know, whatever. Doesn't really make sense. So you've got to have that option for the in-between, because when we look across all the incidents that have happened across the world, in the United States, throughout the past 100 years or whatever, the vast majority of incidents or situations are in that middle zone. You know, it's not everyday life, but something's happened that you need to increase your ability to deal with threats. But we're not at shit the fan. We're not without rule of law. We're not at a situation where you can, or should walk around in full battle rattle. So let me know what you guys have planned for that in between. So for me, the in between is, you know, for me, baseline every day, no matter what, you're carrying some sort of weapon if possible these days. And then above that, like, what's the next step for you? What are your armor options? What are your extra ammo options? What are your extra first aid, that sort of stuff? And how far do you go with it And what's your plan for that? Because I think, like I said, a lot of us are more prepared to deal with serious scenarios than we are for the modest but could happen at any time type of situations. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.